again, I want to thank everybody that's online and taking part in the Lunch and Learn today. Career Services, we're happy to have you and as well as have Jackie Piankowski. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Pointkowski, like
Pian,
point.
Point. Oh, that's easy. Pointkowski is our presenter today, and she'll tell you a little bit about herself in a few minutes. So I just wanted to mention we do have monthly lunch and learns. Although we don't have one in July, our next one it will be in August. And go ahead and sign up on the website if you would like to attend that one as well. We will be recording the session, and I'll be sending out a follow-up email to all participants and registrants, that anybody that registered for the lunch and learn, with a link to the Zoom recording, as well as Jackie's email. And he's also here, I know, on the slide. If you are, if you need to make an appointment with Career Services, we're here for that. We're in any aspect of your job search, please connect with myself or email careerservices@walshcollege.edu, and I'm going to drop that in the chat as well. So again, we're thrilled, happy to have you. And Jackie, you mentioned that you wanted, if people have questions, they should just either unmute or put it in the chat. I'm going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions, I know you mentioned you wanted it as an interactive presentation, ideally, right?
Sure, at the end of after we cover these bullets, yeah.
Okay, so at the end is when we'll cover the questions in the meet, but she'll go ahead and talk about the information on the side. So, okay, go ahead and Jackie, if you want to get started and introduce yourself and go ahead and
Yeah, so I'm Jackie Pointkowski. I'm an executive recruiter and I have about 25 years experience. I've worked at global companies. A lot of my experience is mostly automotive or some kind of manufacturing. 2015, I went off on my own and launched my own business, and that's where I stand today. So it's been great. And the reason why I would offer this lunch and learn today is because from all these years of experience working with candidates as well as clients, I surely understand many things about getting a position like out of college. So I've actually coached and mentored college kids getting ready for that first job, as well as professionals throughout their career. I mean, always picking my brain about how to advance, how to switch positions, just because if you can imagine, what I do is I get a position and I go out and find candidates, I interview everyone. So, you're getting to know people, and then I'm presenting those people to the client. So I get feedback from the client on every person. So over the years, it surely has helped me zoom in on what needs to be said in that process and what clients are looking for. And believe it or not, I know people don't think this, but I'm going to tell you it's true. It doesn't matter if it's an entry level position or I just filled a chief financial officer, the clients want the same kind of candidate. And we'll talk about that in my bullets. And just one of the things I wanted to start with is, as I mentioned, if anyone just joined, but in 2015, I launched my own business as an executive recruiter. And to be honest, I didn't know how I was going to do it, but it was a risk and one that has really paid off. So I'm here to tell who is ever on this call that anything is possible. What you need is a little direction. You need persistence, and you really need to stay positive and kind of get like a support system, like sitting back and hoping things are going to happen. You know, Sometimes it works, but the majority of the time you got to make it happen for yourself, and it is totally possible. I mean, for a woman like myself who's been in automotive, Cheryl can attest to this, probably from her husband, but I'm in a man's world, and you can't see me, but I'm only 5 feet tall. And it takes guts sometimes, right? To go in front of someone. And I did it. And I really truly believe that every single one of you can probably do it as well. I mean, you're at Walsh, you're either going to graduated, and that's a major milestone in itself. So you just got to keep at it. And, I'm here to help you. And and it takes a plan too. So we'll talk about that. So that's a little bit on my background, and I wanted to just share the coaching side with you so you feel confident that this is not my first rodeo, that I've talked to, geez, I can't even tell you how many people, probably thousands of people that I've talked to, and I get feedback from them like, Jackie, thank you. It helps so much. Whatever it was, and I'm not because I'm so smart. It's just because it comes from experience. Okay, so Cheryl, what should we do? Get ready to go over our little slideshow and start?
Absolutely. If you want to go ahead and get going and share a wealth of information I know that you have.
Okay, so I do have, like Cheryl had sent me, maybe what you're all looking to get out of this um, talk today. So I do have that. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with my points that I thought were important. And then if I don't answer your question, I'll really try hard to make sure that I do. All right. So here at the tops, climbing the career ladder, strategies for workplace advancement. And the first thing I have obviously is set a goal. So obviously every one of you have something right now probably that you're thinking about. Maybe it's getting that first job. You know what? Maybe you're a financial analyst. Maybe you want to be a senior financial analyst, a manager, whatever it is. So you got to figure out what it is that you're really looking for, which I'm sure most of you probably know, but you really got to zoom in on what that is. You have to be, and you know what the reality is? You have to be realistic. I've had young kids like out of college say, well, I want to be a manager. I want to make $100,000. Well, okay, but that's really not realistic. We need to get a little experience and so on. Okay, so just be realistic with your goal. It doesn't mean don't shoot for the dream at the end, but there are steps to get there, most likely. Okay, so second bullet, research desired career path. No, I think this is really important. There's several ways to do this. Is there anyone that wants to chime in and maybe tell me just as a thought, like what a job might be that somebody would be after, and I could kind of think about that? Does anybody want to put it out there? Nobody?
This,
Okay.
yeah, this is an interactive if you guys have questions, feel free to
Yeah,
unmute
don't
yourself and
be
ask.
shy,
That's
but
where you're gonna, gain information that you specifically want.
yeah. Well, then I'll just start. So, okay, let's say, you're looking for, you know, either a new position or you want to move up. The first thing I would do is actually probably on Google, LinkedIn, start to research, you know, the job opening in itself. So even if you're, let's say, at a company, but you don't necessarily want to leave the company, you would still start to Google, like let's just take this, you know, manager of accounting, let's say. Okay, I would go onto LinkedIn and you Google manager of accounting. And what you're doing is seeing who's hiring. And what you want to do is see what are their qualifications, what are they looking for. And so that now you start to think about yourself, do I have the right education? Do I have, if it's asking for 5 to 10 years experience? I know these seems like very minor points, but I have talked to so many people that will say, well, I'm not hearing back. It's because they have maybe 1 year experience and the position's asking for, 10 to 12 years. Well, no, it's not going to happen, right? So that's back to that being realistic. And those job postings can tell you, what you're going to get with your experience, what kind of position. And another thing is, be creative in your job searches. Sometimes I have found this, like looking for candidates, the same position, like a director, let's say, of finance or operations, could be called an operations, launch manager. I mean, the title words can change. So try to be creative. Don't just get that one title, because believe it or not, big companies name their positions differently. So with that in mind, let's talk about, in your mind, think about, do I want to work for a really large company? Do I want to work for a small company? That also is going to change. Like a director, at a large company is pretty advanced, right? But you could be a director, let's say, at a $150 million company with only maybe 10 years experience. Okay, so the size of the company does matter when you're thinking about where you want to be. So again, we're talking about this career path. Think about that. So, and a lot of that comes down to personality. Like I have a son that prefers to be in a smaller environment because he likes to do a lot of different things. So you get hired in, you get to do, maybe 10 different positions, a lot of hats, where my other son works for Ford and he's pretty much in his lane, right? So these are just things to think about when you're looking for that new career or advancing. The next bullet. Oh, just one more thing. Also, when I suggested look at LinkedIn, believe it or not, is so awesome. If you haven't used it, you need to. What you need to do, whatever that position is you want to do, you want to be like your PhD that we talked about, go in LinkedIn and search under someone that you want to be. Okay. And you are going to come up with a profile of a candidate that is like, yep, that's what I want to do. And that's where I want to be. And now you can look at them and see how they got to where they are. And to take that a step further, if it's somewhere you're even interested in working, you could even send them a message. Hey, I loved you. People love to talk about themselves. And so it would be okay to send a message saying, hey, I came across you on LinkedIn. I just finished my degree or whatever. Would love to pick your brain, on how you got to where you are, or how do you like the place that you're working, whatever. People love it. And I would say at least 8 out of 10 times people will respond. It can get discouraging because you're thinking, well, I sent my message and they haven't got back to me. Not everyone's on LinkedIn like all day long like I am, but give them the benefit of the doubt and give them a week or so to respond. Okay, so I would definitely check out profiles on LinkedIn. So, now you're ready. You want to go out there. You're thinking you're going to do this. How do I do this too? Great step. We're talking about connecting with a mentor, networking. And I know people don't always believe in this, but the minute they do it, things start to happen. Okay, so I can be a mentor. Cheryl, the career service at Walsh, could all be mentors for you. And what we do for you is, I think what I do personally is like, I encourage you, I give you a very direct path on how to go about it. And networking is just amazing because, you don't know if your neighbor's son-in-law, brother, whoever maybe is working at the place of your dream job. So you can't be shy. You have to go out there and network, and it's talking to people. And again, LinkedIn is something I encourage my candidates to really look at because for myself, and you can all connect with me when we're done. Don't be shy, connect with me. Okay, so what happens when you and I are connected on LinkedIn? I don't know if you know this already, but so if you do, sorry, but for those of you who don't know, on the right, it's going to say like, Jackie's connected to so-and-so. Okay, and that's what is key. You may see who I'm connected with and know to help you to get to that spot. And I'm telling you, I have done this for candidates where I am connected to, I was telling Cheryl, like I don't know, 2,000 people. Not only candidates, maybe like yourself, but because of my experience in my profession, I'm connected to the hiring manager, like the top dog at companies. And if I feel pretty confident in you, even though I don't know you personally, but I'm thinking, you know what? You interviewed well with me, we talked, I will be more than happy to send a note to someone and say, hey, I think, Joe, John, or whatever is a great person and definitely needs an interview. And 99% of the time, they trust me and I get a note back saying, okay, now I can't get you the job, but I can get you to the water. And then you're going to have to drink the water on your own, right? You got to like do your thing once you get in there. But that is all about networking. Okay, so another place like to network, and I've done this early in my career, joining organizations. I joined a human resource, like nonprofit thing once, to get me connected to other levels of people. Just some ideas, any kind of professional organization, go a couple times. I know a ton of people that's really benefited from joining something. And it usually is free. It doesn't usually cost a lot of money or anything, but it's really a good way to get yourself out there. Okay. And obviously, a recruiter like myself is obviously someone you want to mentor with. Okay, so the next bullet, volunteer for leadership roles or other projects. So this is a bullet that pretty much is something we would talk about if you're in a company already and you want to either get more responsibility, maybe you want to change your role or whatever, move up. Now, why is this important? It's very important because getting a promotion or getting looked at for a promotion doesn't just happen like within 6 months, maybe that you're there. But what happens, like me, myself, even talking to candidates, you really can pick up on who's got that drive for leadership, who is capable, who wants it, right? So the volunteering for leadership roles, this is how, I'm going to give you some ideas. Okay, let's say you're all in a meeting and, while you're in this meeting, your manager, whoever brings up, well, we're going to start working on a new project. So rather than just sitting there quiet, maybe like you normally would do, what I would do is raise your hand and say, hey, that sounds really interesting. I would love to jump in. And if possible, if you think you can do it, you would say lead the project, or you could say help lead the project, whatever. And now some of you are going to say to me, and I've heard this 100 times, well, I don't really have any experience yet. But you know what's funny? You really do. And I'm going to tell you and remind you how you do. First of all, a lot of you are probably working and going to school, or you have. I had a young guy interview with me. He wanted a job and he had no experience, he thought, right? But we start talking about what you did in college. What did you do in college? Well, you took classes, and I can guarantee, I went to Wayne State, that you had projects in college that there was a little group of you, 4 people, and someone took the initiative to run that project. And maybe if you weren't the leader, maybe you were the one that set the deadline. Maybe you were the one that said, hey, this is due next week, guys, girls, we need to get on this. So really just, think about where in your life have you had experience. And if you're a newbie and you're getting out in that workforce place for the first time, go back to your college. And it doesn't matter what class. I don't care if it was French. If you led a project, you led a project. And I think it's really important to talk about that to your manager or whatever. So that's like the leadership side. It's always about, volunteering to take more on to your boss, or a great thing to do. Let's say, you go into your boss's office. I think we go back now, we're not all remote, and you just say to him or her, hey, I can help you with that. I can do that. Would you like me to do that? That is taking a leadership role, like baby steps at a time. And you know what? The goal really is just to become your manager or your boss's right-hand man, because you are bringing value to them. You're making their life easier. So if you can think of ways to make your boss's life easier by just taking something off their plate or even making a suggestion, that is key, and you will be looked at in a different light than maybe the person next to you. I was telling Cheryl a funny story. My son internshiped at Lear, which anyone knows, it's a great automotive supplier, humongous. And he was in finance and accounting and economics. And he came home one day and he said he's worried because there was a guy next to him named Bob. And he goes, I don't want to be Bob. And I was like, why? What's wrong with Bob? And he's like, well, Bob is really nice, but Bob is just sitting there doing the same job he found out for 20 years. He goes, I don't want to be Bob. And I said, you don't have to be Bob. Like, you can change your path. And so even as an intern, I encouraged him to go to your boss and say, hey, that sounds interesting. I like to help you with that. I mean, and they keep it at your level. You're not going to get yourself in, too deep or anything like that, but it's showing that initiative. And at the end of the day, it's initiative about what, really, if you think about it, to make the company better, no matter where it is. If it's a college, a nonprofit, like I said, Leard, Ford, if your heart is in that to really make this a better place, I guarantee it, no one is going to turn you down for wanting to help and be a team contributor. It's not going to happen. And then it's going to start clicking. You might get asked more. But I want to make myself perfectly clear on this point. When I'm telling you to take on, leadership roles or maybe volunteer for a project, whatever, I am not telling you that you need to work 70 hours. Okay, that's not what this is about, because a good, smart employee is efficient, right? So if you're working 45 hours and you're thinking, oh my God, I want to move up, but does that mean, I'm going to have to not see my kid's soccer game, or I can't ever, play a disc golf with my buddies or whatever. No, that's not what it means. It means to be efficient in your work and be smart and stay focused. It doesn't look great, to be honest. Like, I think a lot of people get mixed up. Well, I just better stay to make it look good. I don't think that's the answer. Getting the job done is the answer. And really, I mean, if you're actually working 70 hours, something's wrong. Okay. And that's a whole nother conversation. So I just want to keep you encouraged. It doesn't mean that you need to put in a ton more hours. Not at all. Maybe you got to come in a little earlier here and there. But okay, does everyone understand that? I hope that, it's just about, being smart, really researching the new responsibility or whatever, or maybe you think it's something you're naturally good at, then that should come pretty easy. Okay. So the next bullet is continuing building skills and knowledge. I mean, I think that's pretty self-explanatory, and it's really just, learning. We all should learn, right? And as you go on and you're like, well, how do you do that? Well, sometimes it is taking an extra class, getting a little training. But the mistake you don't want to make is if you're in a company or you're brand new, and if you don't understand something, you can't just sit there for hours racking your brain thinking, well, I'm not going to look good if I don't do this. Building skills is also building courage. It's, asking, hey, could I get a little more training on this? You have to ask questions, and you're going to build your knowledge that way. And it's just talking. It's almost like this networking thing again. It's talking to the people around you, or maybe sometimes people come in and take someone else's position that got promoted, right? So now you're in a new position. Email is so easy now. Hey, do you have 15 minutes we can schedule to go over whatever? You want to be trained properly. You want to build your skills so you can be successful. Okay, so don't ever be afraid to get that training and build your knowledge as you're working through these things. And like I said, it might mean taking a class. Like I said, my bullet points are just kind of general, but it's all on your specific situation that I'd be happy to help you with. Okay, and the last one, I have put me in coach. Communicate with your manager. I think this one is also very important. And the reason why I put me in coach, I played sports, but it doesn't have to be sports. But I want you all to think about whether it was you or maybe you're a mom or a dad right now. And I know, when I was younger, we didn't really talk to the coaches as much as I think this generation does in the world right now in 2024. But I know the first things we told our boys is, well, I didn't start, in football. We didn't email the coach. What did we do? We sat him down and said, look, what do you need to do to be better? Well, whatever their answer was, at the end of the day, it's talk to your coach to get what you want, to figure out what do I need to get on that starting field. And maybe it's not even just a sport. Maybe it was at school. Hey, I wanted to be, on that science project. I mean, whatever it is, think about that. And at the end of the day, this is what's so ironic. It's skills that we learned when we were like 10 years old. really to speak up for yourself and be your own advocate, right? So what I'm going to tell you with these jobs, it is no different. I've had personal experiences talking to candidates where I've given them advice and it has worked. So, what do you do in a business? If you want to do something different, you got to speak up. If you want to get that promotion, you got to speak up. Okay, so what do you do? How do you do that? Well, you schedule a meeting with your. Usually at companies, there's like an immediate supervisor or a manager, and maybe there's like a big boss. Okay, you want to start with your next person in line. Two reasons for that. One, it's the right thing to do. And they kind of tend to be offended sometimes if you go right to the big boss, right? So let's just start with that person you report to. Okay. And you just need to tell them, like, hey, I would really love to be, a supervisor, or I would really like to take on, like, I actually did this for myself. I wanted to take on recruiting and I asked for it. I knew somebody was leaving. I said, I had no experience at all. And I talked to my boss about it. And there was kind of like a dead zone for a little bit. I didn't hear anything back, but then they approached me and said, "Hey, were you serious? We would love to do this." And if I never would have said anything, I probably wouldn't be here today. So you just don't know too, getting more responsibility. What I want to tell you guys and girls is we don't always love our jobs. A lot of people do, but a lot of us don't. Okay, and that's okay. But I think at the end of the day, you should really like your job. You shouldn't dread getting up in the morning every day. And if that's the case for you, there are a couple things you can do, right? One is communicate with your manager. Say, hey, you don't want to go in as a complainer. Don't get me wrong. You can't say, like, hey, I just hate this. I don't like what I'm doing. No, you do. You spin it out positively. You say, hey, I would really love to get involved with marketing or whatever it is. That's how you do it. I feel like I'd be really good because, and you say whatever you want to say. And then you try to get yourself into that more responsibility. Like I told you, when I took on recruiting, I did not free up of any of my other responsibilities in the beginning. And it was a little hectic, but you know what? It was the greatest move I made because I'm more of a people person and it fit my personality. So I want you to all think about when you're at these job places, don't think anything's impossible unless it's like if you're a finance guy and you want to be the lawyer in the company, that's challenging. You know what I mean? That would require a different degree. But I think a lot of things can be moved to with the right training. And the workplace now, this is what I'm going to tell you again. If your heart is in your job and your company, your boss, your teammates or whatever in the company feel it, they are going to use you, they're going to keep you, they're going to retain you, and you'll be rewarded, and they're going to try to keep you happy. That's what these companies do now. They retain their employees, the good ones. And the good doesn't mean the smartest ones. It means the ones whose heart is in this place, like I said, at the end of the day, to make the company better. And someone easy to work with. You can't always be the smartest one in the room, right? You got to sit back and learn and be willing to take a little criticism especially when you're starting out. Say, okay, you know what? That's good to know. Um, okay, so I hope this put me in coach resonates with you, and you can't be afraid without knowing all of your situations. You have to do it with respect, and you have to plan it. So, like I said, you can't just pop in on your boss and say, "Hey, I want to talk to you." No, you ask to have a meeting, and you have to kind of state your case. You got to say, "Hey, my personality is like I think I'm really good in this area. I actually like to sit down and just analyze numbers or whatever it is, and I would really, like to take that a step further. Do you know how I could do that?" That's another direction too, because there may be things in the company you don't even know about that they haven't thought about you for because it's just so busy. You know how it is. You get into work and blah, 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 everyone's spinning till 5, 6 o'clock. So, you want to put it out there that you're looking to take on more or maybe a little different position, a promotion. And you know what? I'm telling you, your manager is going to love it. because at the end of the day, you're not telling them that you're going to switch jobs. You're trying to do it there. So we can talk about that. If you really feel stuck in that role that you're in, this has happened. Let's say I'm 30 years old, my boss is 32, and you wanted to be the boss. Well, you're kind of seeing the writing on the wall in a sense, like, geez, well, he's going to be here for 20 years, or she's going to be here for 20 years. So, there are situations sometimes the only way to really move up or get that better job is to leave. Okay, that's the reality. And I've done it. Like, look at me. In 2015, I was done with where I was working. I wanted to try something new, and I left. And that's okay too, but you have to also go back and do your homework about getting where you want to be. And my advice is to never leave a job unless you're rich, which, and you can support yourself, but I still wouldn't encourage it, but I would never leave a position unless you have one lined up. Okay. The reason for that too is the other side of that. If I'm your almost new employer, it just looks better to be working. Your skills are fresh. Even your confidence level is better because, you were at work the day before. I just think you'll have more to offer. Now, for some reason you got let go and it was really out of your control. That's okay too. People understand that. And as long as you're out there really trying to get to your next step, and I'll tell you, sometimes those letting goes is a blessing in disguise. Sometimes you'll end up better company, better position, and you think to yourself, oh my God, thank you. Like, thank you for letting me not work here anymore because now I'm happy. I mean, that's all possible as well. Okay, so I hope that helped. The red at the bottom is my email, jackie.jpconsulting@gmail.com. I hope you jot it down. I am very passionate about helping people, so please don't be shy. If you want to bounce ideas off me, if you even want to have a call with me, um, that's not a problem. Just email me and we can set up a time. And I know all these situations are different, so that's why, I really want to offer that. So Cheryl, with that being said, I can start going over some of these
Yeah,
things.
and change isn't easy. We're not,
No,
we like constant, we're not, but that's what you're saying. If you need to make a change, the writing's on the wall, you're not going to be going anywhere. Sometimes you do have to leave a company, but wait
yeah,
until you have another job lined up
yeah, for
and move.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and change, we all go through it. Like, right, what Cheryl is saying, it's our comfort zone. And then sometimes we think like, well, I'll just stay here because, I have really good insurance or I got 10 days off, but you owe it to yourself to at least look out there and see what's out there, and then sometimes, believe it or not, I've had candidates be interested in my positions, they thought, and then they got the offer and they changed their minds, or their boss gave them a raise and they ended up staying wherever. But and that's okay too. But I just think you at least owe it to yourself. If you're feeling uneasy and you've been unhappy for a long time, at least look and see what's out there. And you know what? You might say, like, what? Maybe the grass isn't greener on the other side, and you stay. But if it's just a comfort thing and you just know deep down that you want something different, then I would really encourage you to try to make that change. But be patient, like what's funny too about that? You don't always want to take that first new job that comes along. I mean, unless it's like, oh my God, this is exactly what I've been looking for. But a lot of times it's not. And I've seen people jump ship just to get out. And you don't want to do that. You really want to make sure everything, that you do have the good insurance. And it's, you can go nowadays, you can go and look at reviews on companies and make sure it's stable and they're not being taken over or they just haven't had a whole mass of people, laid off. You want to make sure it's a secure position, if anything. Okay, so but yeah, I would just say, why not? It doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't even hurt to go on an interview, believe it or not. Yes, you schedule time off of work, but you know what? It's always good to keep those skills
Yeah.
up handy too. And that's part of, building your skills too. Maybe it's interview skills. So, but going on, I don't know if you see this. I printed this out.
This is the notes that when you guys signed up, when you signed up for the Lunch and Learn, we asked you a question and what you'd like to learn from it. And I know I sent it to Jackie. But also I was gonna ask you if you have any tips on the job search process in general. But I don't know if you want to address that later. I just thought, because I know most people that are, on here may be looking for a job, and as a recruiter, you've got so much experience.
So
Um,
you mean, not
yeah, when
necessarily
some
like, is it
look,
maybe even switching, getting a new job out of
well,
college?
transitioning or making a career transition, number one, and just some steps that some tips on when you're looking for a job, what should somebody do that it maybe even out of the ordinary? Because you like you said, using LinkedIn,
Yeah,
networking, um, connecting on LinkedIn with that person that it has that ideal job that you want, and then going and actually sending them a note through LinkedIn and see
right.
if they'll do an informational interview. But any other tips on the job search process as well?
Well, it's pretty standard, most of it, right? You see a position, you apply. If they ask for a cover letter, okay, this sounds very like basic, but if they're asking for a cover letter, a lot of people are like, well, I didn't get contacted. And I'm telling you, the cover letter has a lot to do with getting looked at. Okay, so let's just talk about the position itself. I know this seems so simple, but I'm telling you, you won't believe how many people like have not done this and it's hurt them. So you're looking at a new position. Number one, and this is where I'd be more than happy to look at your resumes too. Your resume, I had a friend talk to me recently about this. She is a marketing IT person and she was applying for an operations role. And I didn't realize that till she was telling me that she wasn't getting any response. And then when I looked at her resume, I'm like, no wonder. It's because her resume is not reflecting what that position is. Okay. So, number one, you can never lie on your resume. Okay. You just can't. You can't say you do something that you don't. But if you're applying to something, at the top, that little summary line, you want to put in there, and it takes a little work. It's like going on a diet, right? You don't lose 10 pounds overnight. It's, maybe a pound a week, whatever. So this resume search is the same and it takes work. So if you're applying for a position and the position says, let's say, I'll go to this operations manager, that's what you're applying for. And your resume, like summary or anything, does not say that, I'm telling you, you're going to go into the no pile. And not because maybe you're not qualified, because a lot of times there's college kids or the computer, they're just looking for words. Okay. And unfortunately, that's what happens, and you might get overlooked. So it's very key. The first thing I would tell you, spend time on that resume. And okay, there is a total misconception. And Cheryl, I hope I'm not knocking what you've taught these guys, but there's a total misconception about having a resume one page. Not true. Okay, it's a mistake. Unless maybe you're like just graduating and it can literally fit on that. But if you're any kind of professional, you need to say what you've been doing. You need to talk. This resume is your marketing piece. That's it. That's all you got, right? So we are going to make your resume not wordy, but we are going to be specific about what you've done that relates to this position that you're applying for. So let's go back. If it's an operations position, in your summary, if you've actually done operations somehow, you want to say, looking to obtain an operations position based on my, years of experience, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so operations is right there in your summary. Okay. And of course, with our resume, if you're a working professional, experience goes first, education goes last. If you're just graduating, it's the opposite. Education first, experience, because maybe it's like a waitress while you worked, whatever, that'll go last. But you need to think about what you've done, and that needs to go in your first like 3 or 4 bullets. As far as, let's say, we're talking about operations, led an operations project, or if you haven't led, you even still have to put it on there. Worked with the operations team launching a new blah, 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 blah. Okay. But you have to be specific. The biggest mistake candidates make with their resumes is being vague. They take something off the internet, they use the format. Like I'm going to give you some examples on what not to say. Okay. Saved the company $1 million. Worked on several projects. Led a team. You know what I mean? That doesn't tell me, because I look at resumes, I looked at thousands of resumes. That doesn't tell me anything. If I'm really looking for some candidate qualified, it needs to show on your resume that you're qualified by experience, by an example. Okay. And maybe it's just one bullet. Maybe it's just a little experience, but it's something and you got to put it on there. Okay. Very important. Okay. So that's the first thing I would do when I'm looking for a job is really tweak that resume. So here's the key. You apply for an operations manager. Now, the second position that's kind of interesting to you is a finance position. Well, maybe you were a finance operations manager. So technically, maybe you could do both, right? So on that second application, you need to gear it toward finance if that's what you're looking for. So now that summary says, looking for a finance position with a blend of operations. Sure, put it in there, but finance has to be at the top if that's what you're looking for and if that's what you're applying to. Okay, very, very important. So see, that takes time because you might have 6 different resumes, but sometimes it's just a word or two, it's a sentence or two. But I am telling you, if I can tell you anything about your job search, how important this is with your resume to make it line up to that position. I've had people send me their resumes and then send me the position to make sure they got it right. I had a girl I spent time with that was applying to Wayne State's pharmacy school. She had to write her mission statement, and I met with her. And she talked about playing softball and worked at a pharmacy, but it wasn't like, just wasn't enough, like with her passion about wanting to be in the school and filling prescriptions. So you just gotta put your heart into the, like everything. And, you'll be like, I'm tired, I worked up, but I'm telling you, if you take the time, it'll happen. Okay. So resume is important about looking for a job. So you start applying. The next thing you do is that networking thing. Start going on LinkedIn. I'm an example. You can email me and say, Jackie, I just applied to blah, 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 blah. Do you know anyone there? And I'll look, right? And if you know anyone else like that, you definitely want to do that. Look to see who works there. Once again, like Cheryl and I have kind of commented on, it takes guts, but you could send an email, a little note on LinkedIn and say, hey, I am really interested in the so-and-so position. I just applied and sent my resume. Would love to hear back from you. Especially if it's somebody kind of like yourself, they might feel you, and be able to relate to you. And they might you may not even hear from them, but they might say to their boss, hey, this person looks pretty good. And so maybe you're not lost in that pile. It's really trying to get yourself an interview. Okay, so that's once again networking and networking and networking. Like I said, talk to your family. It sounds crazy. Talk to your friends. It doesn't all need to be hush hush, really. If you can open up a little bit and let people know what you're doing, somebody might know someone. Actually, I guarantee that somebody might know someone. It almost always happens. And then you got to be patient and then you apply. And then, yes, there is something to maybe following up. You could try that. But you know what? Here's something else I want to tell you. Don't get caught up on that one position because I've heard so many times as well. They applied, didn't hear back, all discouraged. Then something else comes up. They don't even want as much. They apply. Well, guess what? It was the second position that was meant to be. So don't get caught up just applying to one position. I'm not going to tell you to apply to 20 unless you're like need work and you need to do that, but be selective. But you know what? Apply to more than one, network with more than one person, really get it out there. So it's old school skills, but it's going to pay off. Honestly, it will pay off. And then when you get that interview and you get that little thing, hey, we'd like to see you. A lot of times it's a phone interview. Those are tough sometimes. But a lot of times you got a person reading 10 questions, and usually they're pretty easy. But that's where Jackie.jpconsulting@gmail is going to come in handy. Because when you go in there, I promise you, if you want to take the time to email me, I will get you ready. Like, you will just blow that interview out of the water, because I know what you need to say. I know how you need to communicate. I know how you need to look. We're just gonna go in there with, I don't mean like, your hair and all, but you need to be confident. And I will help you do that. And so everything in your power is what I always tell my candidates, is getting yourself in the driver's seat, especially if you've got a couple jobs out there. Like, believe it or not, I just filled a position. We're not supposed to talk about age, but let's say this guy is in his 40s, guy making $350,000, right? And I coached him on his interview, and I barely said anything different than I told the college kid a couple weeks before. And of course, it was more specific when it came down to, why are you qualified for this job? Yes, we talked about that. But when I told this guy, like, you need to get yourself in the driver's seat, it was about convincing. And this is a mistake the generation makes. And I get really upset with this. But you have to play the game a little bit with the people that you're interviewing with. Okay. And when I'm saying play the game, this is all I mean. If you're interviewing to have a job at Walsh College, you have to make Cheryl believe that Walsh is just the absolute dream job, that you woke up when you were 5 years old and thought, I got to work at Walsh someday. I just have to. I mean, it's my dream, right? So what you have to do when you interview, I don't care if it's at Taco Bell, Walsh, or Ford Motor Company, you have to convince that person on the other side that you love their company, you love what they're doing, and you want to be part of it. It's so important. Now, if you don't like the company, that's going to be hard. So maybe you shouldn't interview there. But if it looks good and you're interested, you got to let your light shine, and you got to get in there and convince them that I am a fit for here. This is why I would love to be a part of this organization. And I'm telling you, because I'm giving you advice here from what I've heard from all of my clients who have come back to me and have said this, and this is the honest to God truth. They've said to me, I'm going to give you some quotes. They were boring. They didn't seem interested. Looks like they were picking between two other jobs. They had no energy, So these aren't even really skills. Like, if you had to check off like 10 years, those aren't skills. That's a personality that is just showing them, like, I want to be here. That's what clients are looking for.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's just so true. I am telling you, it's so important. And you know what? If my son's in med school, and I just told him this, he has his number one and number two choice. I said, here's the funny thing. You go to number one and you say that, and then when you go to number two, you say, oh my God, you're my first choice. They don't need to know, because all you're doing is trying to get yourself information so you can make a decision and maybe have two offers. What's wrong with that? Like, you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. It's just really expressing your interest in their company and the position. And, another thing is people, then I'm saying people as in clients, they want they want lifers. Okay. They want long timers, believe it or not. We all know that sometimes we switch jobs in 3 years because we want to make more money or whatever. We know that's life, but they don't want to know that. They want to think that they're going to groom you, mold you, and you're going to be there forever. So, those are things you want to talk about in your interview. I could see myself really having a long time career here with your company. It just seems like people stay here forever. And I love that. I love the stability. Okay. So that's all this interview stuff I'd be happy to share with you, like, personally. But those are just some tips for you on the hunting. I mean, I don't know, Cheryl, there's not much more I can really think.
Yeah. Does anybody have any specific questions for her? I mean, I have other questions, but I was just wondering that you want to address in the presentation today.
Someone's got to have a question.
Okay, then if nobody's gonna ask, I'll ask. What skill sets are you seeing today specifically in demand, hard or soft skills or both in the current job market? I know that's a really general question, but
Yeah.
is there something, that you're really,
I mean, no, I mean, it just comes down to
the
being
specific position?
savvy on the computer. A lot of companies actually like the social media that, people can move around on that a lot. I mean, that's so specific though, it probably would be hard to answer, you know.
Depending on the job
Yeah.
or the
I mean,
field.
I have some things. So we talked about acquiring a job, learning strategies to advance and not become complacent. I think we talked about that. Resume skills, how to assist others. I wasn't sure of what that was. Somebody sent that. How to advocate for myself in the workplace. I think we talked about communing with your manager on that one. Let's see. Just going through the other thoughts here on this. Insight, development, my skills, tips, career advancement. Okay, someone sent how to change a career in my 30s. Um, so I don't know if that person's on the call, but should I answer that or
Or even anytime at any point
yeah,
of your career. I do deal with at Walsh a lot of career transitioners.
yeah.
I would love to hear your,
Yeah, I mean, really just changing a career. I'm assuming that maybe means like going into something different.
yeah,
Um,
they're going back to school, wanting to
yeah,
make change.
right. So, I mean, if you're going to change your career, here's the big thing. I just actually talked to someone about this as well. Somebody that I knew in finance wanted to go into marketing, which is different. So the thing you just have to keep in mind and be willing to do, it's totally possible, is you have to realize that maybe if you're here, you just might need to come down a couple levels to get into that entry level of a new career. Just so you understand that. But you could probably quickly move up because you already have work experience. But you know, you have to do that. You could talk to someone in the company if there's an opening, like, hey, I would love to try that. And it might require taking some classes or getting a second degree, which might be tough, but hey, it might be worth it if you really love it and you think you would love it. A lot of people change careers, just not what you thought, you know, um,
Or change industries.
or change industries.
Yeah, changing industries, maybe not using the jargon, from that specific industry.
That's a good point. Industries are different. Like when the 2008 came and I was still with my other company, we were really busy in automotive and then we weren't. So we went out into the nonprofit world, still the same positions. We actually did work for the zoo. It was fun. But industries, if you want to switch industries, I would research them because there's paces in industries. Automotive is very fast paced. Um, Nonprofit is more slow but very worthwhile. So if you like are going to interview for a different industry, you want to keep that in mind and see how your personality would fit into the new industry. So if you're coming from like, nonprofit going into automotive or something more fast paced, all you got to say is, you know what, I think my personality, I love to be really busy. I'm a multitasker. I can work at 6 things at the same time. Great. Helps you convince them that you're ready for something like that. The opposite is saying, you know what, I would love to do something more meaningful and worthwhile. You know what I'm saying? Like that switching industries is pretty easy. And if anyone needs help, um, let's say how to do that or how to word a cover letter and switching industries, because you probably have to mention that I'd be more than happy to help them word that as well. I hope this all helped for all you people. I don't really know what y'all were after, but I hope I covered maybe some of it you knew, maybe if you even just got a point or two, I hope sincerely that, it's got you a little motivated, a little wrapped up to really take care of yourselves and really try to get to where you want to
I
be.
do have a question in the chat, so let's address that. I'd love to
Oh,
hear
sure.
your thoughts about how to market yourself when you're still 6 months out from graduating with a master's. I'm finding I'm being turned down because I'm still in school, but I want to have a job working and or lined up. So,
Well, that I would say I don't know what the master's is in, but a lot of times in that situation, you might need to get an internship.
Yeah.
That usually solves that problem. And it doesn't mean it's unpaid. There's a lot of paid internships. Because what happens is you don't have any experience, right? And that's probably what's happening. And you might be getting compared to even just this internship, one summer. So if you could find an internship, that would probably solve the problem. Um, Whoever that is that's asking, you could email me, and if I could like have more specifics, you could tell me what you're applying for, and maybe there's just
Cybersecurity. And don't wait, like I always tell people, don't wait until you graduate. Connect with career services or recruiters. Try to find a job while you're in school, honestly.
yeah. So is the master's coming from Walsh?
Yeah, it's in cybersecurity, it looks like.
Cybersecurity. Oh, see, that's a little tough because you're very knowledgeable because you have that master's but don't have experience. Um, you know what? That's a thing too. You could see what's out there for organizations like to get some experience volunteering somewhere. I mean, if you could just get any kind of experience, go to your local city. Sometimes you might be able to volunteer with your city. And like I said, now that kind of thing won't get paid, but what you need is to put something on your resume just showing you've actually now taken what you've learned and put it into action.
Yeah, sometime it won't be specific into cybersecurity, but you just maybe start maybe at an IT help desk initially or
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There's probably places like that that you could go volunteer, and maybe it's just a couple hours, 3 hours a week, but it's worth it because now you have experience.
great. Okay.
And you might be connected now to someone that can get you in somewhere.
Well, I think James Jay is gonna connect with you direct on any further questions he has. Cause it is true though. I mean, trying to find an internship and sometimes it's not everybody can do that, but to get some type of experience on your resume is key along
Yeah.
with the education. So I I think we only have a couple minutes left. I think we're gonna go ahead and close up the lunch and learn. Again, we have Jackie's email here and I'm gonna be sending the Zoom link as well as her contact information and a follow-up email.
Yeah. Just if someone emails me, just let me know where you got my email so I know that you came from Walsh because I get a lot of emails just so I make sure I, open it and read it.
Yeah.
Well, I will respond.
Yeah.
So
We appreciate your time. I know you're busy and just imparting your knowledge and all your experience to all of us, as well as, our alumni that are on, and as well as students. So
yeah, you're very welcome. I hope it helped. And
I'm sure it did. So, and if you have any other information, any other questions, feel free again to email Jackie direct. And thank you for your willingness to do that, Jackie. Not all presenters are. So I want to just mention that.
no
So,
problem.
Thank you.
You're
all right.
welcome.
All right. Thanks for joining, guys. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Bye now.
Bye.